It's just a bottle.
For our third lecture from our pre-Ramadan seminar. As mentioned before, previous lectures concerning the virtues of fasting and also the rulings concerning the one who should fast, and also concerning those who maybe have to make up the fast and all those different issues. Alhamdulillah, we have with us today Ustad Khalid Hassan, as you mentioned before, who is a graduate from the Qasim University, also in the Faculty of Sharia of Islamic Law. We welcome him to deliver lecture number 3 from this seminar. Jazakum Allāh khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Jazakum Allāh khair, everyone who, to the community here, mashallah, here at Brixton, who allowed me to give this talk. MashaAllah, there's a lot of students of knowledge and important people who have come through Brixton, so it's an honor, obviously, to be in such a masjid with such an illustrious history. Jazakumullahu khair. Insha'Allah ta'ala, what we're going to be speaking about are certain rulings regarding siyam, regarding fasting. Mufsidatul siyam, those things that make you break your fast. Makruhatul siyam, those things in which if you do it, they don't break your fast, but they're disliked, okay? It's disliked for a person. Those things which are mubah, which are permissible, and we're going to go through, inshallah, just some of those things, inshallah ta'ala. But before we do that, I know that you've probably already heard it already, just, we need to remember that Ramadan is a very special month. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about this month of Ramadan, that it's a month of fasting. And Allah said, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Fasting's been prescribed upon you. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ أي فرض عليكم الصيام. Fasting has been made wajib upon you, obligatory upon you. كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم. The way it's been made a wajib on the people before us. And then Allah told us why that's the case. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, in order that you have taqwa. So the reason why we're fasting in the month of Ramadan is we're trying to have taqwa of Allah. We're trying to be God-fearing. We're trying to be God-conscious. That's the reason why we're fasting in the month of Ramadan. A lot of the times, maybe when we grow up in school, someone might say to us, why are you fasting? And they'll say, oh, because we want to know what it feels like for poor people or something like that. Those are all side issues. The reason why we're fasting in the month of Ramadan is because we want to gain taqwa. We want to be God-fearing. So what we can understand from that also is that if we want to gain in taqwa, we can fast voluntary outside of Ramadan, and obviously as an obligation within the month of Ramadan. So it's a great, obviously a great month that we can obviously benefit from. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said, "Man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbihi." Whoever fasts the month of Ramadan with iman, okay, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa ihtisaban, also not just believing in Allah, but knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala insha'Allah will reward you, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِن ذَنْبِهِ, then everything that he did insha'Allah ta'ala will be forgiven insha'Allah ta'ala. So that's man sama Ramadan. There's another hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, man qama Ramadan, whoever stands in the month of Ramadan, i.e. stands in prayer and things like that. So those are some of the things insha'Allah ta'ala a Muslim can do. Or that's a slight, if you like, just a breakdown of Ramadan. It's also the month of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The month of Ramadan, the month that the month was the month that the Quran was revealed. I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever from amongst you is able to, or whoever amongst you witnesses the month, let him fast. So fasting on the able-bodied person is obligatory. So insha'Allah ta'ala, without further ado, we can insha'Allah ta'ala go through some of the issues that a Muslim, okay, should not do in the month of Ramadan. Some of those things. What are the first things? So the first part of the lecture we can talk about is, what are those things which are mufsidatun lis-sawm? Those things which invalidate your fast. What are some of those things which invalidate your fast? Number one, obviously, al-akal wa shurb, eating and drinking. So we all know that. That's stating the obvious. So eating and drinking invalidates the fast. If a person's fasting, in the month of Ramadan, and he eats and he drinks on purpose, then his fast is broken. So the whole reason why in the month of Ramadan, the whole point, in order for a fast to be valid, then obviously we need to abstain from eating and drinking. But there's a hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also. He said, "Man nasiya wa huwa sa'im, فأكل أو شرب فليتم صومه فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه." The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever in the month of Ramadan forgets that he's fasting. Let's say this person in Ramadan, he's trying to fast in the month of Ramadan. He has no intention to break it, but he forgets that he was fasting. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, فَلْيَتِمْ صَوْمَهُ, let him complete his fast, because it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that fed him and gave him and made him drink. So if a person forgets, they just obviously stop drinking, eating immediately, and continue their fast. Another thing which breaks the fast for the Muslim in the month of Ramadan is if a person was to engage in intercourse with their wife, okay, al-jima'. If a person was to do that, then obviously that breaks the fast. That breaks the fast in the month of Ramadan, in the time while you're fasting. After you've broken your fast, then it's permitted for you to do that. But as for when you're actually fasting, then you need to abstain from intercourse throughout the time of fasting, insha'Allah ta'ala, okay? So that's what a Muslim should do. So what happens if a Muslim, he ends up, for example, falling into that. Number one, if a Muslim falls into doing that, then as some of the ulama say, number one, this is a very big thing to do in the month of Ramadan. It's not just any kind of thing which is haram, it's one of the major things that a person should not do, which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave such a huge kafara for it. The kafara, the sacrifice that you have to pay, or the levy that you have to do if you do that in the month of Ramadan, is so large. It shows us that it's a large thing. Another thing the ulama, they say, is that as Muslims, not doing these particular things are known by necessity. Most Muslims know it. Al-ma'lumu min ad-deen bil-darura. Something that most Muslims know. Most Muslims know that in the month of Ramadan, you shouldn't do these kind of particular actions. So for a person to even do it in the month of Ramadan, it shows a particular, if you like, tasahul. A person, he thinks that the religion is easygoing all the time. No, there's times where we can be easy with the religion and things are easy upon us, but there's times where we have to follow the rules and regulations of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and that is one of them. So if a person now finds himself that he falls into that, you can no longer free slaves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَصِيَامُ شَهْرَيْنِ مُتَتَابِعِينَ, that a person has to fast for 2 consecutive months. If a person ends up sleeping with their wife in the month of Ramadan, 2 consecutive months, okay? Now, a person might say, oh, subhanallah, 2 consecutive months are very difficult. The ulama, they say a person that can fast for 1 month can fast for 2 months. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be a levy. It's supposed to be something difficult upon you because of what you've done. So if a person is able to fast in the month of Ramadan, then they can fast two months in succession. It wouldn't be an issue for them. So a person should not do that. Another thing that a person should not do is al-istimna. is basically what they call in Arabic like al-'ada sirriya. Basically for a person to, and for lack of a better word, for a person to masturbate in the month of Ramadan. That's something that a person cannot do, and it breaks your fast. If you're fasting, then that is something that you cannot do, and you have to make up your day. You have to make up your day. Okay, so a person has to make up their day. Now, a person might ask, what's the dalil for that? What's the dalil for al-istimna? There's a dalil, but the dalil is not sarih. It's not clear cut in its dalala, in its what do you call it? In its dalala, the word, like in its connotation. In its connotation, what the word connotates, what it means. But the hadith is basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that Bani Adam in the month of Ramadan, he leaves everything, and the hadith says, وَتَرَكَ شَهْوَتُهُ لِي, and he left his desires for me in the month of Ramadan. What the ulama say is that obviously al-istimna, for a person to do that particular action, it's a form of shahwa. It's a form of desire. Okay? So even though the Prophet ﷺ did not necessarily say it outright, the ulama infer from that a person should not do it in the month of Ramadan, and it's mufsidun li sawmihi, and it is mufsidun li sawmihi. It is something which which breaks the fast. Now, if a person, for example, was to go to their wife before fasting, and then maybe he wakes up in the morning or something like that, and he finds maybe something comes out of him, that doesn't break his fast because it's from the previous day. So it doesn't break his fast. That doesn't break his fast because it's the baqaya, it's the remnants of something that happened previously. Okay? So that doesn't break the fast. Now there's some masail where there's ikhtilaf with the ulama. The ulama have some ikhtilaf on some masail. Do these things break the fast? And do these things, do they not break the fast? Okay? So some ulama, they'll say they do, some ulama say they don't. So the best thing we can do is that we can do something that the ulama always advise, and it is al-khuruj min al-khilaf. If there's a mess, and this is a rule that we should all know, if there's an opinion, some ulama say, and it's on important issues. So for example, some ulama will say this breaks your fast, this doesn't break your fast. This is a mas'ala of fasting, it's a big issue, it's not a small issue. The ulama will say, al-khuruj min al-khilaf afdal. Staying away from anything where there's khilaf in it, whether when it breaks the fast, better just to stay away from it, because this, as the ulama say, abra'u li dhimma. It's better for yourself on Yawm al-Qiyamah to just stay away from it. Don't fall into something doubtful. And it comes from that hadith, okay? فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبُهَاتِ فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ. Whoever stays away from shubuhat, then what? He's basically made bara'a from his, فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَعِرْضِهِ. He's made like bara'a, he's made like, basically he saved himself in his religion, his honor. And then the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also obviously said, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ. Whoever constantly stays around those great issues will eventually fall into haram. Excuse me. So, what are some of these masail? Number one, al-hijama. 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 This is one of those masail. Okay, there's one of these masail where some ulama, they say al-hijama, it breaks the fast. And that is because the Messenger of Allah, there's a hadith where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he went past by a group of people. One person doing hijama and the other person receiving the hijama. For those who don't know what hijama is, inshallah everyone knows it. Hijama is blood cupping, when they remove the blood from your system. When they remove the blood from your system, when someone maybe just scratches your body, cuts it slightly, adds a pump. Now in today's time it's a pump, and then they pull out the, like, if you like, the excess blood, and it has many health benefits. Back in the day, if anyone's from maybe Africa or any parts of the developing world, they use like fire, it's more hot. But now they just use pump. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he went past two people. One given the hijama, Other group of people receiving the hijama. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is reported to have said, أفطر الحاجم والمحجوم. أفطر الحاجم والمحجوم. The one that's, doing the hijama has made iftar, has broken his fast, and the one receiving the hijama has broken his fast. So the ulama, when they speak about, for example, the person who's receiving, he is receiving hijama. The reason why they say is because khuruj ad-dam, a lot of blood is leaving his body. Okay. Now, when he does hijama and blood leaves his body, they consider the release of blood in a way in which his body benefits as something that makes him break his fast, because maybe after, as the ulama say, he's nashat, he's got nashat, he feels like, mashallah, if you like, he's got rid of excess, he feels light, he feels good. So in that mas'ala, for example, they say that he has, if you like, broken his fast. So that's obviously the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Aftar al-hajj wal-mahjum. Okay, but what about the person given hijama? What about the person given hijama? It's not clear. So the ulama, some of the tafsir of the hadith is that the person given hijama may be indirectly, because he's doing it all the time, or if he's doing it in the old way with this fire and all this stuff, perhaps, like blood or something can maybe enter him indirectly, maybe through his mouth or any way, because some ulama, they believe of the opinion that anything that enters your body through any orifice, any hole in your body, breaks the fast. We're going to inshallah speak about that, because that's not the case, but they say that maybe blood, if it enters maybe through his nose, he breathes it in, maybe it squirts out, it goes up his nose or something, they will say that that breaks the fast. But many ulama, especially many ulama of today, they're not of that viewpoint. But as just a matter of caution, I would say just don't do that. Just stay away from it. Just be cautious. Okay. There's kalam on the hadith. There's statements of the hadith. Some ulama say that it's a very, the hadith is, it's thabit. The hadith is thabit in terms of its sanad. But there's other statements of other companions who did hijama in the month of Ramadan. So perhaps there's other ways, there's other meanings of the hadith. Because when it comes to, for example, dalil in the Sharia, perhaps the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, but perhaps it's abrogated. Perhaps there's, there can be other meanings. It's not always directly. Meaning that you can't just get one hadith and make a ruling. You have to collate all of the hadith, collect all of them, and then interpret them like that. So that's one of the things that persons stay away from. Another one is vomiting. Vomiting. That's another one where some ulama, they say that it breaks the fast. Okay. So obviously, even though there's no clear dalil, the reason why they say it's clear, because it's like you're slicking your hand or putting something in your mouth, and we're talking about deliberate vomiting, afwan. So let's write that down. So if a person fasts in the month of Ramadan and they vomit and they didn't do it on purpose, they're still fasting. We're talking about deliberate fasting. Just before we even get to that, I just remember a story. There's a person, maybe some of you know him, well-known guy in the Muslim kind of sphere. And one time I was doing, this maybe 2005, 2006, 2007, Taraweeh, Ramadan 2006, maybe 2007. I think 2006. So iftar already happened, khalas. Everyone broke their fast and we went to go and pray Taraweeh. Obviously some people, fasting is difficult, isn't it? It can be difficult on anyone. So some people maybe after the first day of Ramadan they feel sick, some people they vomit, some people they fall asleep. Just everyone's different, isn't it? Khalas. So one time I was praying, we're praying Taraweeh, and many people, obviously many of us who maybe we just follow not traditional al-Islam, but maybe you don't go to the masjid every single day. You might just go for Salatul Jumu'ah in those days. If you're not really practicing too much, you might just go for Friday prayers, maybe Salatul Eid, and maybe a few nights in Taraweeh. That's what some people do, right? for people who don't attend the masjid every day. So I remember I went to Taraweeh and I stood next to a person, the brother of this like well-known individual, and we're praying. And I knew him. We went to we studied Quran, we were children together and things like that. And we were praying Salat Taraweeh, and then this man just started to vomit. Yeah, he vomited so much. I've never seen how he would just vomit. It's like he wouldn't stop vomiting. He was vomiting and vomiting and vomiting. And then the masjid that we were in, yeah, they didn't even clean it. They put a calendar, like the daily they put the calendar over it, and I think someone even prayed over it. Like, in the shahid is that this person, had he had done it in the daytime, he wouldn't be considered someone who broke his fast on the opinion that vomiting breaks your fast, because it's not deliberate. It's not deliberate. He didn't do it deliberately. He did it because he was sick. He did it because the first day of Ramadan. You know what I'm saying? His body's reacted that way. Maybe he's got blood sugar issues or something like that. But, or maybe he even ate too much. But I would say, obviously, I'm not going to say that, for example, it does break your fast, it doesn't break your fast, because many ulama believe that it does break your fast, but nobody should deliberately try to vomit. No one should deliberately try to vomit. No one should put something down their throat or things like that, because it's a dangerous thing which could break your fast. Okay, so those are some of the few things that a person shouldn't do. Okay, he shouldn't do. He should try his best to stay away from if he's fasting. Okay, if he's fasting. Now, what are some of the things that a person he shouldn't do? They're not good. They're disliked. They're makruhat. They're things which, if he does it, he doesn't break his fast, but it's makruh. It's disliked. What are some things that the ulama say is disliked? Number one, jam'u riqihi. For a person to collect all of his the saliva in his mouth. So if he just collects all of the saliva in his mouth and he's just maybe not swallowing it, okay, or he gathers all of his saliva and swallows it. This is something which a person shouldn't do. It's makruh. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't collect all of your spit and swallow it. Don't do that. There's no need to. Some ulama even say that, look, if you take it out of your mouth and then re-enter it into your mouth, aftart, you've broken your fast. So some ulama, they say, if you take all your spit out of your mouth, maybe even your bogey and things like that, and then after you take it out and then after put it back in, you're breaking your fast. Okay? So a person, obviously, naturally, throughout the day, you swallow, isn't it? You just swallow. It's one of the things when I didn't study this bab, when I didn't study these issues of fasting, I remember I would always wonder, if you're just walking around, because sometimes your body, when you're not fasting, you don't notice it when you're not fasting. So sometimes you just swallow saliva, just like that when you're just talking. So I always used to think to myself, what about when you're fasting? But that stuff, it doesn't break your fast. If you're just talking and you just swallow, because you just naturally swallow all the time. Okay, or even after you did wudu, and you've tried to empty your mouth as much as possible or whatever, and there's just your body just automatically as a reflex does that. It doesn't break your wudu. It's not deliberate. Your wudu is not broken. Your wudu is not broken. Okay. Another thing a person shouldn't do is ذوق الطعام بلا حاجة. If a person now is tasting food and spitting it out for no reason, this person shouldn't do that. Okay, the only person that should be doing that is maybe the person cooking iftar or something like that. So if a person is cooking iftar, your mother, your sister, or even your own self are cooking iftar, and you can't do anything about it. You have to taste it in order for, because there's a haja there. There's a haja. There's a need to. But obviously you have to rinse your mouth and things like that and make sure you don't swallow and eat to the best of your ability. But as for just you walking in and out of the kitchen or whatever, you can't just go and say, let me taste it, I want to see if it tastes nice. There's no need for you to do that. You're putting yourself into shubuhat. You're putting yourself in a dangerous position. Stay away from it. It's abra'u lidhimma. It's better for Yawm al-Qiyamah to not do that at all. Okay. Qawl al-zur, also false testimonies. Qawl al-zur, false testimonies, lying and things like that. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the hadith, you guys all know it. Man lam yada' قول الزور والعمل به فليس لله حاجة أن يدع طعامه وشرابه أو كما قاله النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Whoever doesn't leave false testification and doing it and acting upon it, then Allah is not in need of you to eat or to drink. So despite it not technically breaking a fast on technical grounds, a person may do that, and on Yawm al-Qiyamah he finds that his fast, that he's in Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's not benefiting him. There's no hasanat in his fast. So just because something isn't technically breaking your fast doesn't mean that on Yawm al-Qiyamah you may receive the reward of it. How can someone receive the reward of someone fasting when he's lying, cheating, and all of those things? Okay, backbiting. No, a person can't do that and have to think that he's just going to get the reward like a person is actually trying, and all you're doing is just being hungry and thirsty. No, because the whole reason why you fast is, Allah says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, in order that you gain taqwa. And obviously lying and things like that is not from taqwa. It's not from taqwa for a person to lie and all of that. Also, ash-shatam, to curse others, to swear in the month of Ramadan. It's not a good thing while you're fasting. A person should not do that. A person should not do that in the month of Ramadan. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that if a person comes to you and yushatimuk, okay, he tries to come to you and he's cursing you, what should the person say? Or even trying to fight him, what should the person say? Inni sa'im, should say, I'm fasting. So even if a person's cursing you, you shouldn't curse them back, you shouldn't cuss them back, you shouldn't say explicitives or anything like that. And to be honest with you, it's actually hard when you're fasting because you might be short-tempered because you haven't eaten. You can be, as they call it, hangry. You're angry because you're hungry. So a person, what they shouldn't do is they shouldn't they shouldn't curse others. They should not curse others. Okay? Now, that's what a person should not do. Okay? In the month of Ramadan. So ghiba and all these things. Ghiba, which is to talk behind someone's back. Namima, which is basically to talk about people and turn them against one another. You're doing ifsad, you're destroying people's relationships. It should be stayed away from. So all those things in reality, okay, that a person does, okay, outside of Ramadan, which is considered haram, he should stay away from them in the month of Ramadan. Okay, so what should a person do in the month of Ramadan? What are some of the good things that a person can do? And what's makruh? It can even come into something which is makruh. One of them is makruh if you do the opposite of what I'm going to say. So we're still basically on some makruhat, some things which are considered disliked. Makruh means disliked, for those who might not know what it means. You've got something which is haram, okay, which is not permissible, and then you've got things which are makruh, which are disliked. And the ulama, they say something which is the definition of something which is makruh is ما لا يعاقب على فعله. Okay, ما لا يعاقب على فعله. Who knows the ta'rif of makruh? Al-haram is ما يعاقب على فعله، ما لا يعاقب على فعله ولا ما لا يثاب على فعله ولا يعاقب على تركه. Something that if you do it, you're not considered. If you don't do it, you're not considered. You're not gaining reward. And if you do it, you're not sinful. But it's better to stay away from it. That's a ta'rif al-mukhtar for something which is makruh. So what's one of those things? One of those things, for example, is delaying the fitr, delaying breaking the fast. The Muslim should not delay breaking his fast. It's not from piety to try to delay breaking your fast. There's a hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He said, I think it's ما يزال الناس بخير ما عجل الفطرة أو كما قاله النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. That the people will not cease to be in a good state as long as they're doing ta'jeel of the fitrah, as long as they're hurrying and rushing to break their fast. And when does a person break their fast? With the adhan of Salat al-Maghrib. With the adhan of Salat al-Maghrib. So as soon as you hear the adhan for Maghrib, okay, or as soon as the time comes in, you break your fast fawran. straight away. Straight away. You don't wait and think this is from taqwa to wait. It's not. Some of the ulama, they say, and even there's another hadith where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that the Yahud and the Nasara wait. The Yahud and the Nasara wait. No, the Muslims, when the time comes, you fast straight away. Straight away, okay? So, that's what we should do. Okay? That's one of the things. Also, what are some of the things that a person can do, which is considered from the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is when a person breaks their fast, to break it with tamar, to break it with dates. Now, we have to break down, because there's different reports about breaking the fast, because the dates are different. Even in time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we've got different types of dates. Dates are two types. You have al-rutab and you have yabis. Rutab and yabis. Now, everyone just eats tamar in the Muslim world, or Muslims today. Everyone just eats tamar, which is dates. Even so, dates are dates, of course. We're just going to call it date fruit. Date fruit is divided into two. Number one, at-tamar. That's number one, dried date fruit. And number two, rutab. Rutab, okay. Rutab is when it's ripe, basically, when it's ripe. When it's ripe or semi-ripe. Okay. So there's a hadith that states that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he would break his fast with rutab, with ripe or semi-ripe dates. And if he couldn't, then he would use tamar. But obviously everyone today now, no one eats rutab, no one eats it anymore. Everyone just eats tamar. So if a person wants to break their fast with tamar, that's no problem, inshaAllah ta'ala. Okay? And if a person doesn't find that, then the Prophet ﷺ said, let him break his fast with water. Let him break his fast with water. You don't have to back down a whole cup of water. The Prophet didn't say that. You can just, even if you just break it, maybe sip it, 1 or 2 sips. Because some people, if they break their fast with water straight away, stomach aches or they'll feel nausea or whatever. So, na'am. So, those are some of the things that a person, okay, what do you call it? Another thing also is ta'khir al-suhoor. Ta'khir al-suhoor is delaying the suhoor. That's another mas'ala. So it's sunnah for a person to break their fast straight away, ta'jeel al-fitr, and then after the opposite is done when it comes to suhoor. Try your best to eat suhoor as late as possible. What time is suhoor? It's the time before Salat al-Fajr. It's the time before Salat al-Fajr. Some people, because they say that fasting is from sunrise to sunset. That's what they hear in English, and they think sunrise, you start fasting when the sun rises. I knew of a brother that he thought, he had wahm, that you fast when the sun rises. You fast at the adhan of Salatul Fajr, or when Fajr comes in. So you can eat before the time of Fajr comes in. Okay? You can eat before Fajr comes in. Okay? What about, for example, a person's eating a morsel of food and the adhan of Fajr comes in. He either hears it, or the time, looks at his watch or whatever, and he's noticed that the time's coming in. You can finish that morsel of food and after start your fast. Because ta'khir, delaying the, delaying the suhoor is something which is mustahab, is liked. Okay, so those are some of those masail that a person, even though it doesn't break your fast, should do, and if you don't do it, it's considered makruh. So now, for example, let's speak about some other issues, for example, that the ulama speak about, for example, when it comes to new age issues. Okay, masail mu'asira, in fasting. Okay, so previously the ulama, or some ulama, they were of the opinion that anything that enters any orifice of the body breaks the fast. Anything which enters any orifice, meaning hole, any kind of hole, anything that enters into your jawf, is eyes. Even in reality, eyes it can't. But let's just say for the sake of example, in fact it can to a certain extent, but let's carry on. Ears, eyes, mouth, nostrils, your private parts and your backside. Those are the places, right? The ulama of the past were of the opinion that if any of those things have something enter inside of it that benefits the body, it breaks your fast. We will say that when it comes to eating and drinking, what is considered breaking the fast when eating and drinking are the things that either go in your mouth or your nose. Those are generally the ones that benefit your body. Because your nose, if it goes up your nose, even though if it might feel unpleasant, it goes down into your digestive tract, your digestive system. As for your ears, then no, a person likes to feed. He doesn't likes to feed min dhalik. He doesn't benefit from it going inside his ears and things like that. Or his eyes, for example. Okay? So on that mas'ala, if a person takes eye drops, you know, people old in age, they take eye drops. Eye drops do not break the fast. If the person is to keep his eyes healthy, doesn't break the fast because it's not considered food. It's not considered food, okay? It's not considered food. And we're not allowed to create rules when there's no clear dalil. So some ulama, maybe they went over the board in trying to create things which break the fast. And the reason why they did that is to protect the fast. But we say that because there's no dalil, there's no dalil on that, there's no evidence, you can't say if anything falls into your eye, it breaks the fast. Some ulama have the opinion that even if strong smoke, okay, enters your body, or if a person works in like a windmill or something, or like a factory, and there's fumes, they're of the opinion that that breaks your fast. It's not considered food. It's not considered food, and it doesn't nourish the body. So the issue is, does that thing nourish the body, number one, and does it enter into the digestive system? If food does not enter the digestive system and the body does not benefit from it, cannot be considered something which breaks the fast, because for something to break the fast, the body needs to yantafi'u bihi, benefit from it. It's not going to benefit from it. So therefore, it does not break the fast. If you take eye drops, if, for example, a person takes like a needle, a diabetic person maybe has to take a needle. A diabetic person takes a needle. If it's insulin, it doesn't break the fast. If it's insulin, then it doesn't break the fast. If it's insulin, then it doesn't break the fast. And I'll tell you why. Because you're not feeding the person. He's not being fed. You're balancing his blood sugar. A person that has, for example, diabetes, they have issues with the regulation of blood sugar. Their body, if I'm correct, their pancreas or their body doesn't create enough insulin, if I'm correct. I think it's insulin. They don't create enough insulin. And because of the fact that they don't create enough insulin in their body because their pancreas is not working, their blood sugar can spike to extreme highs or to extreme lows, something along that line. So what the injection is doing is regulating the blood sugar. It's not feeding the body. It's not feeding the body. Because a normal person, even if he doesn't eat for the whole day, generally speaking, his blood sugar remains in like a safe zone. A diabetic person, it doesn't happen like that. So therefore, the ulama, they say that if it's insulin, it's no problem. Also, if a person goes to a dentist, and gets the anesthetic done, an anesthetic. If he gets the anesthetic done in his teeth and gets a teeth ripped out or something like that, or gets a root canal, then that's not considered breaking the fast, because your body's not benefiting from it. It's not nourishment. It's not nourishment. It's a pain remover. It's there to remove the pain. It doesn't actually even remove the pain in reality. It numbs the pain. So the pain is still happening, but there's a numbing effect happening to the body, which stops you from feeling it, but the action is still happening. You just can't feel it. Okay? Now, the ulama, they say when it comes to, for example, getting your teeth done, you cannot swallow those things, because whoever knows, when you're getting your teeth done in the dentist, when I say getting your teeth done, I'm talking about a procedure. Some people, maybe if you get a filling or something, it might not happen. But if, for example, you're getting a root canal done or your tooth is coming out, then your mouth's going to have to be open and a lot of stuff are going to enter into your mouth. You have to spit that out. And they'll make you spit it out anyway, but you have to make sure you spit it out, you rinse your mouth out. And also the dentist assistant will have a cord that goes inside your mouth, and there's constantly air. There's like a suction, and it cleans out your mouth anyway. But you have to make sure that, obviously, you don't swallow your blood or any of that kind of chemical, that fluid, because that fluid, even if it comes into your body, there is a chance that obviously your body will benefit from that. Other ulama, like I said to you before, they said that obviously a lot of blood coming out of your body obviously breaks the fast. That's the opinion of some ulama, which is why I said don't obviously do hijama. When it comes to, for example, minor surgeries like that, a lot of blood doesn't come out. So even though there's ikhtilaf on does a lot of blood break the fast or not, all ulama are in unanimous agreement that small amount of bleeding doesn't break the fast. You have a nosebleed, you cut yourself, something like that, doesn't break the fast, okay? It doesn't break the fast. Okay, what about now someone being fed through a tube? Person in hospital, he's being fed through a tube. Now, if you're being fed through a tube, that's breaking the fast. Being fed through a tube is breaking the fast. There's several ways. I think may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from ever being in that position. But I'm guessing the tube is like when they put a tube out, I think maybe it's in your stomach or something. They have something. I think some are maybe in your throat, your stomach, and then they feed you, right? They put like calories and stuff. It's not like food, it's like their own vitamins, and like maybe like a solution, a liquid solution, they'll put it into your body, right? To keep you alive. That breaks the fast. Why? So this is the mas'ala now. What is the thing that we have to look at? The thing we have to look at is whether or not the body is being fed. And what is meant by being fed in fiqh in this context of fasting? Is the body going to benefit and feel, mashallah, good after? And obviously, after a person eats, generally speaking, you feel somewhat good, which is why some people get bigger than others. Some people they like the good feeling more than others. Like in they say you feel nashat. Obviously, a person bedbound in a hospital bed, we're not going to say, mashallah, he's feeling good, but he's surviving. He's surviving off of the food, isn't it? So because of that, the ulama, they say that is the equivalent of eating and drinking. That is the equivalent of eating and drinking. If, for example, so that's being fed through a tube, okay? What about now, for example, a person's using a catheter in the hospital, or he's got a urinary tract infection. They have to put something up her private part to remove the urine. That's not breaking your fast. That's not breaking your fast because it's not benefiting the body, okay? So the mas'ala is you always have to look at whether or not it's benefiting the body. Now, there's some kinds of injections where the person's benefiting from it. There's some injections where maybe the person's benefiting from it, and those kind of injections, there's several types. We would have to look at the ruling, but generally speaking with the ulama, the one I know about is insulin. Insulin doesn't appear to break the fast. Okay, so now, I don't know if you guys did it before, but we can just speak upon it quickly. When can a person break the fast? Who is allowed to break the fast? Are there any groups of people, for example, that they are allowed to break the fast? There's some ahwal where a person is permissible for them to break the fast. Number one, the musafir, person who's traveling. So you guys all know that, the musafir. The musafir, he is mukhayyar. He can fast or he can eat. If the safar is easy, the ulama say it's better for him to fast. if he's going to find difficulty in fast, then he can what do you call it? He can, if the safar, so if the traveling is going to be easy, and he thinks he can fast, let him fast. And if it's going to be difficult, then he can break his fast. The ayah obviously Surah Al-Baqarah, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَةٌ مِنْ أَيَامٍ أُخَرٍ. Whoever is sick or traveling, then they can make their iddah, they can make up time from other days. Okay, so this traveler. Obviously, we know that traveling is difficult. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, "As-safaru qit'atun min al-adhab." That traveling is like a portion of the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not easy to travel. Traveling is not easy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the choice. If you want to fast, you can fast. And if you don't want to fast, you don't have to fast, on the account that, so it comes back to the hal of the person. The person is mukhayyar. The person, he has the choice. Now, a person who's kabir fi sin, an old individual, let's say an old man, old lady, this person, and they're so old in age, they can't fast, this person is permissible for them, to break the fast and not fast the month of Ramadan. Okay? And because they're unable to fast in the month of Ramadan, then they would have to pay the fidyah. They would have to feed a person for every single day they broke their fast. That's what they would have to do. They would have to do that. The traveler, he will just do qada. He will make up the days. Okay. What about a person who he's sick, but he can become better? He can get better. Yurja bur'uhu. Okay. The person that's sick and he's going to get better, the ulama, they say it's better for him to wait till his sickness subsides and then do qada, and then make up the days. What about if a person, what do you call it? What about now if a person has mental health problems? So Ramadan comes in and he's fine, and then halfway through Ramadan he goes insane, for example. He has a mental health attack or something like that. And then the last part of Ramadan, he comes back after Ramadan to normal health. The ulama of the opinion that this person, or some ulama anyway that we're talking about him, they're of the opinion that if a person loses their mind, then there's no qada for him. There's no making up the day. Because from the shurut al-sihha, from the conditions of your fast even being considered valid, is for you to be in a hal of having aql. Okay, so the person who fasts is the mukallaf, and the mukallaf meaning the person that has the ability, he's old enough to implement or do the injunctions of Islam. And the shurut, the condition of mukallaf, is for a person to be baligh, to be of age, past puberty, or he's going through puberty past it, and aqil, and he's aqil, he's got aql. So what do we understand from that? The sabi, the child, he doesn't have to, it's not wajib on him to fast the month of Ramadan. And the majnoon, it's not wajib for him, because he's what do you call it? He's, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, rufi' al-qalam an al-thalatha. The pen has been lifted from 3. And the Messenger of Allah, one of them was al-majnoon hatta yafiq, from the person that's insane until his mind comes back to him. So on the account that person, he's lost his mind in totally he's lost his mind, then in this situation, the ulama, they say la qada'a alayh. There's no qada from him. He doesn't have to miss, he doesn't have to redo. So na'am. So the musafir can break his fast. The old person who can't make up days and can't fast, he can break his fast, and he just has to pay fidyah. A person who's chronically ill and the doctors are telling him, look, this is a lifelong condition, you're never going to be able to fast, then he should what do you call it? He should pay the fidyah as well and not fast. Na'am. The woman, obviously, if she's on a period, okay, she doesn't have to fast, but she makes up her days. Also, the murdi', okay, or the hamil, the woman that's breastfeeding and the woman that's pregnant. The woman that's breastfeeding and the woman that's pregnant. The woman that's breastfeeding and pregnant, she doesn't have to fast. Now, with the issue with the woman and the woman that's breastfeeding and pregnant is that there's different statements of the ulama. But what seems to be zahir, seems to be apparent, and that's what many ulama take today, is that a woman who is pregnant and she fears upon herself or the baby, or she is breastfeeding, maybe the baby's 1 or 2 years old, and she's she's breastfeeding the child, and she fears that if she doesn't do it, she's gonna harm it's gonna harm her or the child. And now, for example, she's had several children and things like that. She's had several children. She's or she's just in a position where now she's got 5 or 6, 7 years of Ramadan to do. Because generally speaking, once a woman starts having children, she'll have successive children kind of thing, and after breastfeed successively for a few years, maybe up to maybe even 10 years. This in this hal. Based upon the hadith of Ibn Abbas, he said, Ibn Abbas, that a person in this situation is like the old person who is sick and can't make up their days. Okay, so he said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, aftarata wa at'amata. Break your fast, aftarata, break your fast, wa at'amata. Okay, they have to break their fast and then they have to feed and give the fidyah. They don't have to do qada, make up their fasts, they don't have to do qada. All they have to do is feed miskin. Now, there's different ulama have different opinions, but this is the opinion, inshallah ta'ala, that we're going to take. This is what many people in the UK they take, and other tulab al-ilm and other mashayikh, they take this viewpoint. Okay, they take this viewpoint that that obviously thinking. Now, when it comes to things that a person also shouldn't do in Ramadan, then obviously we know that looking at things that will make, if you like, yuthiru shahwa, that will bring about you, for example, just bring about your kind of desires, basically. Don't look at anything that's going to bring about your desires, okay? Shouldn't do that, because if you can't do it outside of the month of Ramadan, then by greater analogy, you can't do it in the month of Ramadan. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam obviously said, يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباء فليتزوج فإنه أغض للبصر وأحصن للفرج فمن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإنه له وجاء. He said, oh, young assembly of youth, whoever is able to marry, then let him marry. And then he told us why. فإنه أغض للبصر. It helps you lower your gaze. So lower your gaze is something that you must do. In the month of Ramadan, if you can't lower your gaze, you should not look at things which will make you lower your gaze. And to the extent that some ulama that even of the opinion that, I said to you before that obviously masturbation breaks the fast. Some ulama, even there might not be an opinion that many ulama take, even though some do, like for example, Sheikh is it Abdul Aziz Ali Sheikh? Abdul Aziz Ali Sheikh, the one that he's not the mufti, but he's a scholar. He's a young, he's 50s, 60s. Abdul Aziz Ali Sheikh, I think it's him. He's not the mufti, but he's big in Saudiya. Even he's of the opinion of the Hanabila, where they're of the opinion that even madhi, pre-seminal fluid, can break the fast. Now obviously that's not something that's a major opinion, but like what we said, khurujan min al-khilaf, staying away from khilaf. Don't do those things which will we don't want to get into any issue of khilaf on something that breaks the fast, so we try our best to stay away. And obviously I'll just say the hadith of Ibn Abbas that he said before. He said كانت رخصة للشيخ الكبير والمرأة الكبيرة وهما يطيقان الصيام أن يفطرا ويطعما مكان كل يوم مسكينا والمرضع والحبلى إذا خافتا على أولادهما أفطرتا وأطعمتا رواه أبو داود. So this hadith will talk about the woman who's afraid for her kids and things like that. And we just said that the rukhsa, it was allowed, this permissibility, this ease, this license for them to not have to fast, was before for the Shaykh al-Kabir, the person that's old in age, or al-Mar'a al-Kabira, the old woman. وَهُمَا يُطِيقَانِ الصِّيَامِ, and they're able to fast on technical grounds. They're able to fast, but it's difficult for them. Okay? And يُفْطِرَا, the Prophet said to them that they should break their fast. وَيُطْعِمَا مَكَانَ كُلِّ يَوْمٍ مِسْكِينًا, that they should fast, they should feed every single day a miskeen, a poor person. So even when it comes to feeding, you have to feed the miskeen also. You feed the miskeen. You can't just go, now, mashallah, go to a rich person's house, feed them. You feed the miskeen. والمرضع, murdi', person who is breastfeeding. والحبلى, hubla is another name for the word hamil. إذا خافتا على أولادهما, if they're scared for their children, أفطرتا, they break their fast, وأطعمتا, and they just pay the fidya. Okay, this is a hadith which is reported by Abu Dawood. So inshallah ta'ala, I'll just read this question, and if anyone maybe has just a few questions, hopefully if I have the ilm to answer, I'll answer. If I don't, I can't answer. What is a morsel of food related to delaying when to eat suhoor? Is it the food in your hand or the food on your plate, or does it count for liquid if you have in a vessel? I would say, for example, if the time for Fajr has come in, you've seen the time for Fajr and you're eating food, for example, and it's maybe a large amount of food in your mouth, khalas, what do you call it? You can break your fast, and you can eat that food in your mouth. If you've got like a large plate, mashallah, you've got so much food left, it's not advised. I would not advise that. But if, for example, you just got a plate, one or two spoons, eat that. Okay, eat that. If you just got a small little sip, you just take a sip and khalas, you're finished now. But not you hear 5 minutes after you heard the adhan. No. Or 10 minutes after you heard the adhan, you're just eating food. No, I'm talking about when the adhan is going, just try to eat. Don't just stop. Just carry on. Then after, now that's what I would say. Do we have any questions from anyone here, or no? Is it yes? The fadl. What age is bulugh? Bulugh is bulugh is it changes from person to person. Bulugh is basically, the brothers asking what age is bulugh. Bulugh is when a person gets to puberty. But there are certain things which can make a person become baligh. Okay, so the ulama, they'll say, for example, the breaking of the voice. The breaking of the voice. A person has a wet dream. His pubic hair started to grow. And like the breaking of his voice and things like. No, I'm not sure the breaking of the voice. However, one second. If those signs don't come, then some of the ulama say when a person reaches 15. But these all come before a person's 15. So the pubic hair growing, and I think the pubic hair and the armpit hair. For the woman, her period coming, and if those signs are not there, like I said, they have. Some ulama said to wait till they're 15. تفضل.
Do you know why some people they say you have to stop eating 10 minutes before?
Never heard of that. Oh yeah. Yes.
Someone has like Tourette's.
Okay.
Or tics, and their body does something that breaks their fast. Does it count?
No, because obviously they're sick. So someone has Tourette's. I don't know. Maybe they just bang their head, or when they have like a tic, when they have like an episode. Tourette's, basically, for those who don't know what Tourette's is like involuntary movements of the body and things like that, and involuntary statements. So let's say, for example, a person's having like a thing, an attack, and they're uncontrollably doing something, then it's an illness. They're not doing it deliberately. So if it's not done deliberately, it doesn't break the fast. Anyone got any other questions, inshallah? Is that it? Okay, well, inshallah, barakallahu feek, there was some taqseer from my side, some shortcomings, so forgive me, but inshallah ta'ala, I hope everyone benefited. Barakallahu feek. And jazakumullahu khair, mashallah. Everyone listened attentively and had good akhlaq, for jazakumullahu khair. Thank you so much. Barakallahu feekum. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد